You're listening to the Life Purpose Advisor Podcast, episode 39.
A lot of people at kind of midlife like I was who are on a treadmill trading time for money in a job, yet wishing there was more to their life.
You're listening to the Life Purpose Advisor Podcast.
Life purpose, spirituality, higher calling, personal growth, meaningful life.
We ask the deep questions about living a balanced life of meaning, purpose, and joy.
Passion, know thyself, be mindful, spiritual practice, aha moments, life lessons, balance.
It is time to welcome your host, Angie Swartz.
Brett Blair is a life coach, an author, a speaker, and a business owner. He is the founder of Coach Brett Blair, a life and leadership coaching and consulting firm, and the author of From Autopilot to Authentic. I wanted to interview Brett because of his amazing story about transforming his own life from a leadership role in the corporate world to his more authentic life of a coach, a recruiter, and much, much more. Brett, I'm so excited to talk to you about your juicy transformation. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Angie. I appreciate that.
I'm really enjoying diving into your book. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you're busy doing and how you got to be where you are today?
Okay. Well, what I'm busy doing is running two businesses at once. One is an executive recruiting company, which is called Sanford Rose Associates Blair Leadership Group, and fairly new life coaching business with some writing and speaking involved in that. And I'm transitioning out of the recruiting business, transitioning full-time into coaching as quickly as I can pull it off. So busy days and not all that balanced, which is something I coach others on how to be. So I need to look in the mirror. But that's what I'm doing right now. The how I got to where I am right now is a long story I'd be glad to share.
Well, let's take it slowly. Let's just talk a little bit about why you're transitioning from your recruiting practice, which I understand from reading your work is what you did first after leaving your corporate job, into a coaching practice. So How did you go from one to the other?
Yeah, through an aha moment. About 8 or 9 years ago, I woke up in the wrong career, and luckily I recognized that, and I left the corporate world and went into entrepreneurship and opened my own recruiting business. And I liked that a lot. I liked the work of recruiting. I liked helping people find great jobs and helping companies find great people. But about a year ago, I realized I didn't love it. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I didn't love it. And what I love is helping people who are feeling stuck in their lives. A lot of people at kind of midlife like I was who are on a treadmill trading time for money in a job, yet wishing there was more to their life. I love helping those people figure that out and make changes to get on their path of whatever their purpose or passion is. And I kind of said to myself, well, I like what I do, but I don't love it. I know what I love to do. Why don't I go do that? And so I made the decision to make a business around what I love. And it's really taking off quite well.
It's quite an incredible gift. As you know, I do similar work with my clients as a coach, working with people on their life purpose. But it's quite an incredible gift to get to be present with someone, and to really talk intimately with someone about what their heart wants in their lifetime. There's nothing like it if that's what your path calls for you to do.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally get that. And like, it's almost magical when those connections happen. And I love watching people's light bulbs go off and they connect to whatever their passion is. It's usually something they dreamed of doing when they were a little kid, that they can do those things. And usually they're held back by false beliefs or fears that don't need to hold them back. And I love watching people move out of the trap of a job they hate to a passion they love. There's nothing more fun to me than that.
That's a pretty amazing thing to get to bear witness to, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It sure is. And a lot of people need that help.
They sure do. They sure do. What are your thoughts on why people stay in jobs that they, aside from the obvious that we create our lives that require finances, we box ourselves into a place where we have a big mortgage or a big car payment or both, and a lifestyle. But why do you think that our culture takes us in that direction, that our values are around going to those lifestyles versus what we love?
Well, I could speak from my personal experience. For sure, for me, it was living a life that other people expected of me. So I ran out of high school right into mistake number one. I chose to be an engineer, which was completely the wrong path for me, but I did it only for the money I would make, and did it, got the job, made the money, raised a family, and I was taught as a Boy Scout, as a young man, to put other people first. I took that literally. I literally put my wife and my kids and my role as a provider above all other things. And it took going through marriage counseling and divorce and whatnot to realize that that's not that healthy, to put everybody else's opinions above your own. But that was the trap I was in of a hardworking, providing husband and father was more important, maybe culturally or maybe my family poured that into me, than whatever my own purpose or passion might have been. Coupled with some insecurity and fear around taking risk. I think I was too security minded and thought, I better get a job and get a paycheck and hunker down that way instead of taking a chance on being self-employed and chance on a different lifestyle. I think a lot of people, I know a lot of my friends that are kind of in that rut, I call it, are there for those reasons. And once you get married, have kids, mortgage, and all that, it starts to accumulate to where you feel like, well, I don't have a choice. I mean, that's not true. They do have a choice, but it almost always takes some big emotional event, significant emotional event, to rock people to rethink those things.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. Because otherwise,
for sure,
days, weeks, months, years, decades just flip by without even giving somebody time or the impetus to really reflect on what in the world am I doing.
Well, and we can strive for the bigger car, the bigger house, the bigger vacation, all of those things. But I think everyone wakes up at one point and says the bigger doesn't feel any different than the smaller, because
Correct.
they're just the same. They're not filling that gap.
Yep. Yeah.
So to speak.
And I think, and I'm not an expert on this, but my personal belief is that culturally, all the momentum is going in the wrong direction for instant gratification and kind of lazy behavior. Go to work, go home, watch TV, get drunk, go to bed, get up and do it over again every day. It's sort of the norm. It's unusual for people to commit to personal growth, or to commit to their health, or to commit to, every day being better at something. It's a anti-cultural phenomenon. But those that go against the tide of culture really benefit from it. So I'm trying to do it one person at a time. It's my cultural shift, starting with me and the life I live, and perhaps the example I give to others. But boy, if you just let what is fun and easy happen, your whole life can flip by without ever doing anything meaningful, or without ever connecting to your purpose or your passion.
Interesting. I think that many, and then often with working with clients, to your statement about fun and easy, I think oftentimes people can't answer the question about what's fun or what brings them joy, because they're in such a pattern of that they've created in their life, and oftentimes I think that's a doorway to understanding our purpose as well. Mm-hmm. Not getting drunk every night and watching television, so to speak, but it's such an interesting cultural place that we're in. And where are we talking to you from today?
So I'm in my home office in Durham, North Carolina.
And I'm talking to you from Southern California, sunny San Diego. But I don't know if culturally there's a big difference in these two states, but it seems to me, at least here in Southern California, that the culture is shifting a little bit, that there are more people interested in personal growth and consciousness than ever before in my lifetime anyway. I don't know if you're seeing that there.
Yeah. I think I am, and honestly, I've only been here 5 years, and my business is not at all local. It's almost all people either in Michigan or wherever. I have a client in California, so I agree with you. That's going on. Something else I wanted to mention I was trapped by the wrong thinking of go get a job, hopefully work in the same company for 40 years, build a big nest egg, retire, and go play golf and be happy. And I think that's the biggest lie on earth, to go, to sacrifice 30, 40 years of your life, usually in a job that you don't like, to, in the future, when you're old and not as healthy, enjoy the benefits of that. So I've totally erased my thinking around retirement. That word doesn't exist in my vocabulary. And my personal belief is that one of the keys to being happy and healthy and successful, whatever that means, is to stay balanced and to commit to lifelong growth. Literally grow physically, emotionally, spiritually, grow until the day you don't wake up. That's my plan. And that doesn't mean you work hard for a paycheck, but that means you're growing in whatever dimension it means to you. And I'm going to find out, but that's, I think, the recipe, one recipe for how to break out of that cultural lie of trade time for money in a job you don't like to one day retire and then lay back and have fun.
Yes, I agree with you, for sure. I'll see you there.
Good. Okay, my goal is to live to 115, so.
Deal.
You ready? All right.
I'm ready. That means I get to live a little bit longer. I think I'm just a little younger than you, so.
Cool.
So that works for me. Very, very interesting topic that I've been spending a lot of time on as a parent. I just returned from a trip to World Domination Summit last week, where there's lots of people thinking about this topic and talking about it on an ongoing nature, trying to figure out how to re-engineer their lives so that they can follow their passions and create bigger communities and do better things for the world than what they feel like they're doing in their 9-to-5 jobs. But it brings up things for me around how do we mentor our children towards college and what is our advice to them on getting jobs and the next steps around that. How do you approach that topic?
And I've got 3 kids that are all grown up, 32, 28, 25. The first 2, both girls, were straight A students all the way through, went to college, really easy path. My son, God bless him, took a different path, was really challenging in high school and barely got through and all that. He's thriving now, but I learned in raising him mistakes I made with the first 2 of a kind of a narrow view of got to go to high school and get great grades and go to a great college and go out and make a lot of money. With him, and if I raised another child now at a young age, I would figure out what is their passion and nurture that. And regardless of how much money making capacity there was to it, regardless of whether it was college or not, whatever God put in them as a purpose or a passion, then connect to that, create opportunities for that, honor that, be proud of that, and let that unfold. And it may not be college. It may not make a bunch of money. Doesn't matter. It's their gift. And I'm not going to have a chance to do that again with my own, maybe with my grandchildren, but I would totally parent differently around those expectations. Do you agree?
I do. It's such an interesting topic. At the summit last week, the team at World Domination Summit unveiled a new coming university that's called the Wayfinder Academy. That's going to be launching in 1 to 2 years, that does just what you described, that helps children focus, or college students focus on understanding what is it that's really going to bring a lifelong happiness into my life. So I have that right on my watch list. I'm very interested in the curriculum for that university, and very interested in how the educational system is going to change in the next 10 years. And my personal interest is there, but I also have a 10-year-old, so I'm very selfishly interested in that topic. So I think a lot about this, and
I bet you do.
And her father is still in a corporate job, so we have two viewpoints on this topic. It's going to be very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, for a fact that your 10-year-old's world will be probably, we can't even imagine how different from our world as she grows, because it's changing so fast. In my recruiting business, it's funny. 7 years ago, a resume that had a person who changed jobs every 5 years was considered a job hopper. Today, if you don't change jobs at least every 5 years, there's something wrong with you. You're obviously in the basement with your stapler. You're stagnant. So it's shifted that quickly to this free agent type thinking.
And it really breeds, I'm sorry to interrupt you, it really breeds two kinds of corporate cultures. So you have companies that are looking, in my view, to hire those folks that have steady resumes, that have done long stints at companies, or that are 20-year employees. And then you have people that are recruiting for these other type employees that have done many things. And to me, we're looking at and I don't want to generalize, but I will just for the sake of this conversation, we're looking at a company that's way more creative and an out-of-the-box thinker, and one that's going to be a little bit more old school.
True. Absolutely.
So, and what does that mean for their futures? We're yet to see, but we would think that those older school companies might not be around for a lot longer, in 20 years maybe.
Yeah, probably not.
Or they won't be functioning in the same way.
But regardless of the company or the company's culture, you want your 10-year-old, when she's 20 or 22, every day excited to go to work because she's doing something that she has passion around. That's what I would say you want her to have.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. In my coaching practice, and I'm sure in yours as well, I speak to people every day who talk about the things that they loved when they were younger that they never do anymore, or regrets that they have that they loved doing things, or even watching cartoons that they wish they could go back and do. So it's a very interesting thing. For those of you listening, I would encourage all of you to think about what those things are that you loved to do when you were younger, and give yourself permission to go do them today, because there's no rule that says you can only do those things when you're, under 20.
And there's no rule that you'll have it tomorrow.
Very good point.
Yeah, so get about it. No, I love that. I 100% agree with you, Angie.
So, two great coaches on the line today. We have lots of rich advice to give out there to anyone that's listening. But let's turn this conversation a little bit back to you, Brett, and let's talk about your story.
Okay.
Do you feel like that you know your own life purpose? And tell us what it is.
Yeah, no, I absolutely do, and it's what we've been talking about. God made me to help other people. I love helping people, almost in any way, but specifically, I love helping somebody who feels stuck or feels in a rut and uninspired by what they're doing, whether it's career-wise or just total life-wise. Just helping people break out of that numb feeling of trading time for money, or trading time for no real reason. And one reason I love doing that is because I spent 25 years living that life. And luckily I woke up one day with an epiphany that I was living the wrong life and I was going to change it. And it scares me that I could easily now be in that same wrong rut and not know it, and go to my grave one day not knowing it. That realization scares me, because I didn't know how bad I had it. Right? I mean, I didn't know I was not connected to my purpose until 45 years old, and it hit me like a brick in the head. So I can kind of sniff that out in other people. I'm like, I can tell. I see you. you're in the rut I was in. So
Well, when we're running around the hamster wheel, we can't really focus on our purpose.
Else. No, the minute you stop, you fall down. So that's my purpose. I think I knew it when I was a young boy. I knew it in junior high and whatnot. When it came time to figure out what my career would be and what my college degree would be, I made a huge left turn in the wrong direction and chose to be an engineer just for the money I would make. And that was a decision that set the next 25 years out for me. And I learned a lot and grew a lot and raised a cool family and all, but that was not my passion. I couldn't have picked a job more boring and more not me than engineering and other jobs in a big corporation.
Yeah, you and I have very similar paths. I did the same thing as you. I studied accounting and became a CPA and worked for a big 8 firm at the time. Now there aren't 8 of them, but why do we do those things? Like why do we do those things in college? And where were the counselors then that should have been telling us or could have been telling us to take a different approach to that?
And I know why. For me, it was this cultural and family expectation that I convert all the hard work and all the student loans and all that sacrifice into a great paying job. And I wasn't quite bright enough, or I didn't want to work hard enough to go be a doctor or a lawyer, so I chose to be an engineer. It paid really well. It paid a lot more than a teacher would have paid, or a, heaven forbid, an author.
Right.
And so I guess if you want to call it worshiping money or making pragmatic decisions around the return on my investment, I chose a job that would pay really well. And it did. I got it, and it did all that, but it didn't at all connect to my purpose or passion. And I remember back, I wrote this book not too long ago, but back in when I was 8 or 9, I can remember really vividly at a campground. I was a Boy Scout, deciding to write a novel one day. It just hit me out of nowhere. I'm going to write a novel. And then I didn't until I was 53. But I totally buried that desire when pick a college, pick a career, pick a life happened to me. I totally buried it. Yet I think it was more important desire than making money. You can do both, by the way. But anyway,
sure.
That's my, sure. And I love, when I coach people, I go way back to their childhood. What did you dream of when you were a kid? What did you like to do? What did you play with? When you looked up and looked at the clouds, what did you think about? And oftentimes that's their passion. So that was one. And when I was a kid, right in high school, I worked a lot. I worked at a bank. And before that, I worked at Dairy Queen as a brazier boy, they called it, cooking hamburgers. I loved dealing with the public. And these little old ladies would come in and their checkbooks would be way unbalanced. They hadn't balanced them for 10 years. And I'd spend days fixing it for them. And I loved that. I loved working with people. And then what I do, I chose to be an engineer, where you sit in a cubicle by yourself all day. And I don't know what I was thinking, but now my people connectedness is infinite. It's as many people as I can talk to are in my life. I love that. And the recruiting business is a step in that direction, but coaching people and helping people is just beautiful for me.
Going back just a minute, talking about chasing money or choosing professions that pay well. Do you think that when we were in college and even now today, that making a lot of money proves us to be more worthy?
I think we're culturally fed that lie. Making a lot of money lets you buy expensive toys and live in fancy neighborhoods and have the envy of neighbors and other people. So I think, yes, I think there's strong energy and motive, or cultural pushing us in that direction to think that in some ways is the most important factor.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said about it's okay to have both. It's okay to follow your heart and make money for certain.
Yeah.
But I think following that path of success through money gives us a false sense of importance and maybe even a false sense of evolution if we're not doing the personal work that goes along with it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I don't want to trash engineers as a profession or my job. I was an engineer for a while, then I got my MBA and moved into other roles. Very good job. A lot of people would love it. It was a good job. It just wasn't the right job for me. I wasn't born as a baby to one day be an engineer. A lot of people are. Had I, right out of high school, chose to be a teacher or an English major and a journalist or something, I think I would have had I would have made money and had a family and raised all that and still, but felt more passionate every day about my work because I would have been doing work in my area of gift. And I believe this, with how diverse our economy is these days, much different than 20 years ago. Through the internet and whatnot, you can create a business out of almost anything, almost any passion, almost any gift. A person can create a business around it, and if you're really good at it and help enough people, maybe make more than you'd make as a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, if the money was that important. So it doesn't have to be one or the other, but the driver should not be money over purpose or money over passion.
And
it shouldn't be money now versus develop our skills over time and be patient, persistent, and let it unfold. We have too much focus on immediate gratification. And that's another huge problem area culturally, I believe. I feel like I'm lecturing. Stop. No, please. Thank you very much. And thank you for saying that about that if there's nothing wrong with being an engineer. Like, I feel the same thing. There's nothing wrong with being an accountant if that's what your purpose is to be in life. That wasn't mine. It's not yours, but I don't think we're suggesting that those are bad careers to take. Not at all.
Getting back to you, Brett, you mentioned that you had an aha moment which changed your life. Mm-hmm. And I'm interested to go a little deeper on that. Do you feel like that there were hints along the way in your life, like other aha moments that were pointing you in the direction of where you are now?
Little ones. Not really. What was scary to me is that I didn't even whisper to myself that I was in a bad marriage or that I was in the wrong career or that anything was wrong with my life. Like, on the outside, it all looked great, and on the inside, I lied to myself that it was great until almost literally I got cracked in the skull that it wasn't great. So, man, oh man, could that happen again? Is that happening now? I don't think so, but I'm aware that I could lie to myself or mislead myself for decades. But what happened to me was I literally had a moment. It was at 5 a.m. on a Friday, December 1st, 2006. I was in Las Vegas with my wife and my daughter and her friend celebrating my daughter's 21st birthday. And I had been with the company almost 21 years. And it was the work was really kind of bad. We had a big quality problem with one of our products. And as that problem got worse, my boss and my boss's boss and everybody around me kind of ran away from me and left me standing alone. I felt bad about that. I think my dissatisfaction with my work was starting to bubble up. That's one thing. The work was getting crunchy. About 6 months before that, I started leading the youth group at our church. And my wife and I and family had always gone to church, but I'd never really gotten deep into it. But I think the youth group leader quit, and I volunteered to help him. And so for about 6 months, I've been leading this group of teenagers every Thursday night. And I couldn't wait for Thursday night. I just loved it. My work didn't matter to me. I couldn't wait to be with these teenage kids for 2 hours once a week. And I think that opened up that love of people inside of me. And then as part of that church thing, I thought, well, I started reading spiritual books, and I read The Prayer of Jabez. I don't know if you've heard of that book or know about it, but it talks about a really simple prayer that I started saying every morning. The prayer is basically, Dear God, please bless me, because through your blessings to me, I can then bless other people. Please expand my territory. Please help me to touch more and more people. Please lift me up as you expect me to do things I've never done before, and keep me from evil, keep me from sin. And we lived on a 10-acre little horse farm then, and there was a long walk to the mailbox and to get the newspaper. Every morning I'd walk, it's like a quarter mile to the newspaper. I would say that prayer every day. Well, but then I'd go to work and sit in my office behind my computer and just trade time for money in a job that was the opposite of expanding my territory. I'd pray for God to expand my territory, but I'd go to work and do the opposite. So that contradiction was starting to build on me. So I think the youth group thing, saying that prayer every day, but having a life that was opposite. And I woke up one morning and I had this, on vacation, this dreadful feeling that, oh God, I'm still in this life of this crappy job. I got on my computer. My wife was asleep. It was really early in the morning. And all the emails started coming in of all the problems at work. And then I got this email from who's now my life coach, Dr. Tom Hill, but he had a weekly thing. It was like every Friday. It's called a Friday Eagles name that I've been getting for years. I usually didn't even read it. But for some reason I read it this time. And in reading his little coaching message, I literally felt that blanket of dread lift off of me and felt this incredible peace. It was like a tangible feeling that everything's going to be all right. And I knew right then I was going to quit that job. I had no idea what I was going to do at all. Zero plan. I just knew that's over. I feel great about it. I couldn't wait to wake up my wife and tell her about it. And that moment, it feels like it was yesterday. It was 8 years ago. But that's the moment that triggered my transformation from guy trading time for money on a path that other people set me on to a guy figuring out what his purpose and passion is and moving in that direction. And ever since then, it's been a remarkably different life, full of a lot of good stuff. Now, a lot of bad stuff too. A lot of, things happen, but in terms of connected to my purpose and passion and my own freedom and growth, it's all in my hands now, and I would not trade it.
And so you mentioned that earlier. I think that you mentioned that you got divorced. Was that after this morning?
So no, we after that. So her name's Carol. I told her that I had this thing happen, this epiphany or this feeling, and she said, "Okay, cool, I support you." And I thought I was going to get a job. Like, I didn't have this epiphany, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. I thought, well, I'm going to find a different job. And then talking to Tom Hill, and he and I, there's a long story there, and if you read my book, you'll hear all about it. But he said to me, well, yeah, I'll be glad to help network and see if I can connect you with some other people. He might be able to, through them, find a job opportunity. But he said, have you thought about being an entrepreneur? And those words cracked open the huge part of me that, yes, wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I buried it. I totally buried those thoughts, thinking, well, how in the heck could I do that? I've got a mortgage and 2 kids in college, and no way. But anyway, I ended up becoming an entrepreneur, and over the next 2 or 3 months, other things happened, synchronicities of friends recommending this and that, but I ended up starting a recruiting business, which is another way out of left field. Nobody ever would have expected that out of this engineer guy. And she supported that. My wife, what ended up happening not too long after I opened my recruiting business, I went from the structure of a corporate life with meetings and emails and all that to no structure at all, I felt kind of slippery. I hired a life coach, Dr. Hill, and he started teaching me philosophies that I now live by of commitment to growth, commitment to balance, setting goals, written goals. So I started to really focus on my growth, my personal growth, and that was the beginning of the fracture of our marriage. My wife didn't like this guy who I was becoming, and we all ended up getting divorced. But that's what happened, and that epiphany or that aha moment in December 2006 was the moment that shifted it all for me.
And can we talk about divorce a little?
Sure, absolutely.
And how do you think that contributed to where you are today from a professional standpoint?
Well, let me back up. So I started setting my goals, literally writing them down on an Excel sheet, because even though I'm not an engineer by heart, I am trained to be one, so I know how to be organized. And my wife caught me doing that on my Excel sheet and made fun of me. She called me a nerd, and I think she meant it to be funny, but it felt like a knife in my heart. I thought, wow, my wife doesn't support my growth. This is hard. And ended up, we had trouble. I went to counseling, and with a marriage counselor, I learned new things like codependency that I had been. I didn't realize it. And that it's not evil to put yourself first, your growth, your health. By being the best I can be, I'm better for other people. I had to learn that because in our marriage, we had a deal. If I would put her first always, and if she put me first always, we'd have the best marriage. Then my battery ran out doing that. And I learned to commit to my own growth, to be independent, not codependent, and to be healthy and focused on growth, and that therefore be a better partner to other people. And so ultimately we got divorced, but I've carried that learning of a healthy, independent commitment to my own growth as a healthy way to be, and I'm focused on that. I've since then met and married a phenomenal lady who's got the exact same approach to growth, and we have a phenomenal marriage. But I had to learn it the hard way. And as I coach people, I'm not a marriage counselor, but I absolutely believe that committing to your own thing, your own purpose, your own passion, your own health, your own growth, your own balance, that's important. You can't delegate that. And you shouldn't expect your partner to not focus on their own growth. And two healthy, growing people that come together with an attraction and a compatibility, there's nothing better than that. So that's my view.
Nothing better than that so far in your life. You
That's
never
true.
know.
No, it always can, and it will continue to evolve. Absolutely. But,
thank you. Thank you for sharing about that.
You're welcome.
Tell me a little bit more about your spiritual beliefs. And you've mentioned your church and God a few times, but
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that in detail?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have no doubt. I'm absolutely convinced that I'm a spiritual being, an infinite spiritual thing called Brett that happens to have a physical body, living a really short life here on Earth. So that I have no doubt about. Now I was raised a Christian, and I am a Christian. I go to a Christian church, a real fast-growing, non-denominational Christian church. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus as my Savior, and I'm active with my church. I'm not I don't take everything literally that pastor says or the Bible says. I guess what I take literally is I'm a child of God, and when my physical body goes in the earth, I continue some way. And the spiritual side of me that's with me now will still be going on then. Sometimes I think I used to be a bird. I have really vivid dreams of flying. And I was pursuing my pilot's license, and then all of a sudden I started getting migraine headaches, and you can't fly if you can't see. So I had to put that on pause. But I wonder, if I'm being real frank with you, if in some past time I was a bird. But, and what my marriage counselor recommended I read Jonathan Livingston Seagull early in my therapy, and that book was amazing. It just unleashed a huge part of my passion around being different. It's okay to be different. It's okay to soar. It's okay to fly as high as you can fly. But the one thing I know is I'm a spiritual being happening to have a really short 115 years on Earth, and then it's going to go to something else.
And your definition of God, then?
Yeah, creator of everything. I'm a big fan of Wayne Dyer, but I believe that the universe is basically a good place. There's evil in it, but that it's infinite, it's expanding, opportunity for everybody. It's beautiful, loving, creative. And I'm part of that, and you're part of that, and we're connected. And I'm very optimistic. I'm a big believer in the better things are yet to come for me and you and the world. And that's all part of God's plan. So one of my goals, I'm a big believer in writing down my goals and doing it in a balanced way. But from a spiritual perspective, which I call my highest priority, my goal is to get closer to God. I want to get closer to God, whatever that means. And I try to read a lot and pray a lot and meditate a lot and just really soak into that spiritual part of me that's connected to God.
Very nice. Very nice. How do you feel when you're not close to God?
Stressed out, ragged, chasing the money. It's easy to not feel close to God when I'm just kind of letting the checkbook or the to-do list get in the way of the always there, perfect, peaceful place called my spirit. You know what I mean? I know you do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
It's always there. In the showers when I feel it the most because I'm not doing it, I just say, okay, I'm noticing I'm connected to the spirit here. But it's the dichotomy of doing both at once, being active in this thing called the earthly world, while there's this perfect spiritual part of me that will never get sick, will never die, will never have a fight, will never feel stress, will never go without. I know that. And I can connect it to my daily physical behavior. I'd be phenomenal.
Right. You mentioned some ways that you get closer to God, but do you have a daily practice?
Yeah. So I pray. I'm probably 4 times a week. I meditate. And one of my goals is to make that every day because I know when I really soak in 20, 30 minutes of meditation before I start my day, the days are better. I've got data to prove that. For some reason, that's been a kind of a difficult habit to lock in, but meditation.
What do you mean you have data to prove that?
Oh, because I make more money. I have better deals, like on my recruiting business, which is such a crazy roller coaster. The days I meditate are better business days. I know.
Okay.
And I think it comes from I behave better. It sets my day up to unfold better when I reset things through a good dose of meditation. I've been using the Insight timer on my iPhone. I'm familiar with that or not, but I love those. Maybe you're on there. I don't know.
Seems to be a very, very popular app on the phone.
It's got like hundreds of different guided meditations. So you can just push one and a new one. It's free. It's amazing. So I love that. I'm either reading the Bible or reading other spiritual texts. I'm listening to Wayne Dyer's Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life on the 81 verses of the Tao Te Ching right now. So I try to always be reading something on this that will nurture my spiritual either knowledge or search or quest. And I'm okay with the parts of my Christian walk that I don't totally agree with. I'm okay with it. Nothing's perfect for me, and it's a good alternative for other uses of my time. My goal is to never be a judger. It's not my job to judge people, to be more of a witness, and just through my life example, be a good guy.
Any other practices? Not that that's not enough, but anything else you want to mention?
No, I go to church. I love Christian music. So, yeah, I do. I listen on my radio. I listen to the Sirius XM radio Spirit channel. I listen to that. I pray. I read. I go to church. We have a Wednesday night life group. I go to that. That's pretty much it.
That seems like a lot.
Yeah, I call it my highest priority. So if it is, then I better put that into it.
How about the physical body? Do you think the physical body has a role in keeping you on purpose?
Absolutely, and that's my second highest priority. If I drew my circle, and I don't know how far you're into my book, but you'll see it. The engineer in me does this circle thing, but spiritual's first, my physical health is second. So my physical health is more important than my marriage, more important than my children, more important than my work, more important than you, more important than my money. Because I believe if my physical body's not working, I'm not good for anything. Now, spiritual is above physical because it'll go on forever, but I put a lot of priority into my physical health, and so that means what I eat and exercise and sleep and what I drink are really, really, really important. And my wife has the same priority, so we both know that if it's the choice between our body or our marriage, our body wins. Luckily we're both healthy. And I don't mean that in an absurd way, but I do mean that in a way of developing habits that will put the odds in our favor of a long, healthy life that's vibrant now and vibrant when I'm 115. I don't plan to live in a nursing home and have other people take care of me. I'm very healthy. I have a little challenge with cholesterol, courtesy of my parents, and I'm trying my best to manage that without medication, and I am. So I'm 54, and I feel great. I run and lift weights, and I realized I want to add yoga. I don't have yoga in my life right now. I want to create time for that because I think that would be the next step of like total health. So those are my views on the physical health.
Yoga is a wonderful practice. I got back to my mat yesterday and realized I'd been off it too long, so I recommitted to that practice myself.
Thanks for the encouragement.
Absolutely. No, nothing like it.
And I know it has huge overlap into the emotional, mental, and even spiritual sides of our lives, so it isn't just for stretching. I realize that. It's
absolutely
much more than that.
I look forward to talking to you after you have experienced it, and we'll see what you think about that. I just wanted to mention that I have read far enough in your book to see the circle in there for anyone that's listening. Brett's referring to something that I use in my practice that you can Google and use for yourself called the Wheel of Life. Mm-hmm. And you can rate your own life, do some study into how the Wheel of Life works. But if you're off balance, you'll see that your wheel will not roll very well. And it's a good tool to look into where maybe your focus is lacking in different aspects of your life. So I just wanted to put that out there a little bit.
No, thanks. And more fundamentally, the wheel's important and balance is important. But even before that, and most of my coaching clients don't think about these things. Understanding, putting names to the things that are the highest priority in your life. A lot of people just don't even think about that. So I kind of require them to think about it and write it down. What are your priorities? And everybody's can be different, but if you don't know what your priorities are, it's hard to work on getting better.
Right.
For some people, sports are a huge priority, or fishing, or hunting, or animals, whatever. I could care less about those things, but for other people, it's a huge important part. Well, then admit it, write it down, and we'll set goals around it and get better at it. Yeah.
Very good.
Thanks.
Very good. I just took the time while you were talking to, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Louise Hay's work around You Can Heal Your Life, but her beliefs are that any of our physical ailments relate to an emotional thing. So what she says about cholesterol is that cholesterol is related to, she says here, clogging the channels of joy. So I guess more joy in life, according to Louise Hay, will cure high cholesterol. So,
wonderful. Well,
so there's that to go look into.
Thank you. I'm all about joy. Thank you.
So it's very apparent that you are. So maybe your cholesterol is just catching up with your life transformation.
It is going down. The cholesterol numbers are improving quite well. So maybe it's because I'm joyful. I appreciate that.
Could be. So let's just talk about synchronicity for a moment. Have you experienced synchronistic events?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm a huge believer in synchronicity. And actually, I blogged on this. My business growth, the recruiting company, is roughly half of what I focus on, my goals and my work and the plans I put and yada, yada, yada. And about half are completely out of my view, the events that cross my path, that if I were too myopic or narrow-minded to recognize, I would have passed right by it. But I really work hard to stay open to synchronicity, primarily through random meeting of people at the right time. It happens over and over and over and over and over. I can predict it. And actually, there's a great book by Jaworski called Synchronicity. He calls it Predictable Miracles. So yes, man, meeting my wife, the wife I have now, Kim, who's an amazing lady, was synchronicity. So
beautiful examples, and thank you for the book recommendation.
Yeah, and it's a really good book. He's a scientist who, at midlife, experienced enough synchronicity to start to study it, and then wrote a book about it. And basically says it goes on all the time. It's just our challenge is to open our awareness to be open to the magic of these moments and to connect to them. Don't brush them off. You and I meeting could be one. It goes on and on and on. It is one, by the way. So, I love that. I love just meeting people and letting life unfold. I know that's going to continue, the synchronicity part.
Right. It's delicious. The deliciousness of stepping into your purpose, the synchronicity for sure.
Yes.
For sure. Can I ask you about money?
Yeah.
So do you feel like that you make, I guess it's not a feeling thing, do you make more or less money now than in your corporate career, and do you think it matters?
It doesn't matter. I have made more. I have made less, like in the last 8 years. Overall more. I'm right now kind of in a transition where I'm putting a ton of time into non-money making things like writing. But it doesn't matter. And one thing I had the privilege of some really good friends helping me reprogram myself around money. 4 or 5 years ago, my business was really struggling. The automotive industry collapsed right after I started my business, and most of my recruiting's in automotive. And I was like paralyzed with fear. Well, what if I can't make the mortgage payment and pay my alimony payment, and all these what ifs? And a really good friend said to me, "So what?" And he kind of guided me through it and said, "So what? So what if you can't pay your mortgage? What if you can't pay your alimony? And I kind of guided myself through living under the bridge, and I realized I would still be alive. And anyway, somehow that freed me of carrying all that around, and I left that little intervention with him with a different attitude, and lo and behold, everything turned out fine anyway. It always usually does. Most of what we fear never happens. But that was kind of a tangible intervention of my false connectedness to money as a bigger thing than it needs to be. And I don't know if it's as I'm getting older or more spiritually or connected to my purpose or passion, the money thing is becoming less important, yet somehow moving in a better direction. Same time. Like, we're paying off our mortgage quite quickly. I'm going to be debt free one of these days, and with a self-employed situation that looks like, how can I ever do that? Well, I am. I believe you help enough people, somehow it works. Actually, one of the metrics I changed in my recruiting business, instead of tracking the money, is track how many people we help. And
love it.
You look back and the money came with it. But it's a kind of a different motivation. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
How about resistance? Have you ever encountered resistance from friends and family regarding, I know that you've mentioned this already, but
have I ever?
So, and how did you deal with that?
Do you like Wayne Dyer?
Love him.
So one of his famous quotes is to be independent of the good and bad opinion of others. So I love Wayne Dyer, and I love that quote, and I realized right away as I started telling people I was going to open a recruiting business, people couldn't believe it, like shaking their head at me. You got to be kidding me. Because they viewed me as this corporate guy, kind of shy and stuck in my cubicle. And then I recognized, and I love in the Bible, it talks about how Jesus was not accepted in his hometown as a prophet before he was the Messiah yet. But that you can't be a prophet in your hometown, in your own town with your own people. And so I have that right now as I've transitioned more into a life coach. I've got dozens of old friends and some family members that absolutely don't see me that way and are kind of shaking their head, probably thinking I'm on an ego trip. Who am I to try to help other people? So I've had to just say that's okay. That's their opinion, and not let it hold me back, and realize that there are far more people I'm going to help through what I'm doing versus the few relationships I'm going to lose through what I'm doing. And that's unfolding.
Okay. Can I ask you a lightning round of yes or no short answer questions?
Of course.
Do you think that passion and purpose are the same things?
No.
Do you think that everybody has a life purpose?
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how important is following your joy and igniting your life purpose?
9.
Did you ever quit your job to follow your purpose? And do you think somebody needs to quit? And we know that you did.
Yes, I did. And sometimes that's the right answer.
Thanks. What brings you great, great joy?
Watching other people's light bulbs go on.
Good. Great answer. Love it. If you unexpectedly amassed a good-sized fortune, what would you do differently?
Pay off my mortgage and then nothing differently. Be more generous with that money.
Great. I think I want to add a question in here.
Okay.
If you weren't doing coaching, do you know what you'd be doing?
Teaching.
Terrific.
Yes.
So just in closing, thank you for all those wonderful answers.
You're welcome.
Tell me, what should listeners learn from your life?
That first of all, it's never too late to make a change, a big change in your life. That's one. I believe that the best way to be happy is to commit to growth, personal growth. And that if you peel the onion on that, that means focus on your habits. Be honest how you spend your time, and make a habit of changing your habits. And these are things I've done, and they're really working well for me.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any, thanks. Do you have any recommendations for our listeners, any personal growth resources or practices that you'd like to influence others to adopt?
Sure. One real easy one. Turn off the television and instead read or listen to audiobooks, but trade TV watching for, learning through reading. Well, not only learning. You can read a fictional book and have fun, but listen to books instead of watching TV. That's one. Number 2, set goals and write them down. A third one is to be intentional about who you spend time with. So surround yourself with other adults that will lift you up and help you grow, not pull you back. I know for me, hiring a life coach was transformational. So it may sound self-serving, but I think any pro sports player, they have coaches. If you want to be a pro in life, hire a coach. This is hard to do by yourself. And last thing, to be totally an advertisement, read my book.
And let's just talk about your book. So
Okay.
your book is From Autopilot to Authentic.
Yes.
How the Philosophies of Dr. Tom Hill Can Help You Live Your Exceptional Life. And Dr. Tom Hill is your coach,
Correct.
right?
Yes, he is.
And from what I've read, your story is very open and authentic, thus the title. But you're telling a lot more detail about some of the stories of your life that we talked about today.
Mm-hmm.
And where can we find it?
So it's on Amazon in paperback or as an ebook right now, both those. And next week I'm recording the audio version in a studio in Nashville. So probably in about a month it'll be on audible.com and iTunes as an audio book. So I'll be doing something I've never done before, and that's reading my book on a microphone for the audio version.
And that'll be a very interesting new experience, continued learning
Yeah.
for your own prescription. But how long do you expect that to take?
I've got 2 full days scheduled in a studio, so literally it might take 20 hours, it might take 15. I think it'll take about 12. The book itself is probably 5 hours, and it'll take twice that to lay it down on tape. And I'm not editing it. I'm just doing the voice, and a different person will publish it, or produce it, I mean.
Very good.
Do you have any advice on that?
I often think about this when I'm listening to audiobooks, that it's much easier to have a conversation and do an interview versus reading a long chapter from a book, at least for me anyway. So, So I think my advice would be to make sure that you do your meditation practice that day, get very grounded in your chair, make sure that you're very clear on your energy is very clear before you start the process. So
right.
I think, some of the great voice coaches that I know, talk a lot about their coaching of dropping your voice into your heart and being very grounded from where you speak from. And you can actually hear it in my voice, now from practicing that. So I think all of those things that are intangible are probably the best advice.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I could have, and I didn't, hired somebody else to read it. But it's my story, so I feel compelled to tell it. So
seems like a wise choice.
Thank you.
So, and I will look forward to following up with you and see how the experience goes.
Thank you. I'll tell you all about it.
So if people, thank you. I look forward to it. If people would like to know more about you, where can they find you on the internet?
So on my website, it's www.blairleadershipgroup.com. That's blairleadershipgroup.com. Or email me at bblair@blairleadershipgroup.com. I'm also very active on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @CoachBrettBlair.
@CoachBrettBlair.
Correct.
Pardon me. Terrific. Is there anything that we haven't spoken about today that you want to mention before we end?
Probably, but we don't have 8 hours to do it. No, I'm kidding.
Great.
We got the overview, and I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. So we'll all stay tuned to Brett Blair and see what's next in his amazing story. You've been listening to the Life Purpose Advisor podcast. I'm Angie Swartz, here today with my guest, Brett Blair. If you're interested in doing coaching work with Mr. Blair, please see his website, as he mentioned. And if you're interested in working with me on finding your life purpose or working through those things that are in your way, you can contact me through lifepurposeadvisor.com. I'd also like to hear from you about future guests and what you think of this podcast. You can email me directly at Angie@lifepurposeadvisor.com, or you can also tweet me at Angie Swartz on Twitter. I look forward to talking to you soon, and we'll see you next time.